Hello everyone, this is part 48 of What If Naruto Learned the Secret of Shadow Clone, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Humanity was proud of many of its accomplishments throughout its history. Traversing the seas, heavier than air travel, figuring out how to smash lightning into a rock and force it to think. Computers might as well be magic. It was some of the most simple innovations, however, that even after hundreds or thousands of years, humanity still went back to the basics when necessary. And in the beginning, there was fire. Fire to cook their food, to turn mud into clay, to boil their water and forge metal into tools and heat their homes in the winter. Fire, to beat back the cold and lonely nights humanity found itself in, under the star-filled sky. To Sasuke at this moment, as a blast of phoenix fire littered the space he weaved back and forth through, he was reminded that fire was at the core of the Uchiha clan's philosophy. And as he molded his own grand fireball, heightened more after years of hard work and practice, he released it in a fully white-shifted conflagration of light and heat. Itachi, of course, had already moved, easily avoiding the large and slower attack that arced away into the sky. Sasuke expected that in the end, his Sharingan matching his brother's, as they danced about each other with the full intent to kill one another. Because in the end they were both Uchiha, fire burned within their souls. They would either be cleansed by it or burnt away to ash. Itachi made space for himself, launching several kunai to keep Sasuke unbalanced while he considered his options. You have the Mangekyo, and yet, I see your lover and your best friend still alive. Curious. This confused the older ninja. The Mangekyo was only accessible after experiencing extreme emotions and trauma. Losing a loved one, watching your best friend die, killing your kin. Those were the only ways to obtain it. As he dived under another grand fireball, appreciating that indeed Sasuke had been training hard, he made a hasty shunshin that placed him just behind the boy, unless this is some trick. Sword out and blocking a kunai that had been aimed at his neck, Sasuke grunted before launching a front kick that sent Itachi sailing away over the rocky terrain. Distance made, Sasuke threw several shuriken before lightning began to flow over his sword. Just like our elders, you misunderstood the Uchiha texts. Rushing forward, Sasuke kept an eye on the dust cloud that Itachi has disappeared into. Which was a good thing, as black Amaterasu fire erupted from its depths that melted his thrown weapons into useless slag. Aborting his attack and jumping high into the air, some quick molded chakra allowed for another hasty shunshin to carry him further as the ravenous black fire tried to follow him. Itachi was frowning, eye leaking blood as the dust cleared, and he eyed his little brother, me. Misunderstood the texts. Laughable. Spotting Sasuke standing with a sword wreathed in lightning, Itachi made direct eye contact with his brother. It has to be a trick. He would trap his brother within the infinite world of his Tsukuyomi and interrogate him thoroughly. Feeling Itachi try to use the Tsukuyomi against him, Sasuke allowed a maddened grin to spread on his face as the genjutsu failed to take hold. Tell me, brother. Who subjected me to hours upon hours of mental torture? Dashing forward, he just missed Itachi's neck with the tip of his sword as his brother leaned away with Sharingan-enhanced reflexes, who made me relive the slaughter of our clan. Another swing was this time deflected by a chakra-enhanced kunai, lightning arcing down into the ground to gouge out a furrow, but still Sasuke pressed on, watching as Itachi began to actually put some effort into this. And who now stands before me having been used as a puppet for conniving old men? I wasn't the weak one. Chakra flaring, Sasuke just missed Itachi again with a Chidori Nagashi, though several locks of hair were cut free. You blindly followed your orders. You never questioned what would happen afterward. A sheep before a hateful shepherd. Dodging and deflecting ever-increasing precision strikes, Itachi quickly realizing that his younger brother had certainly been training and improving. Deciding to up the stakes, Itachi's lungs began to fill with tightly molded chakra while Sasuke prepared the same hand seals as he. With a shout, both brothers released great fire dragons. The attacks were hot enough to scorch the very earth itself as they raced towards one another, one red and one white. They arced around each other before riding their way into the sky, where they detonated and shook the very air around them. Yet still, Itachi could tell Sasuke was not flagging, keeping up with him step for step. So be it. Diving deeper into the Mangekyo for something more esoteric. You want me to believe I was the weak one. That I was wrong. A few hand signs as Sasuke dashed to close the distance between them, and a backflip over a sword slash allowed him to trail a hand over the rocks. A rock wall soon grew between himself and his brother, giving him time to jump away and carve out more room between them as his chakra began to manifest. I think you are the one that's mistaken. I did what I had to. All for our home, for you, little brother. It was time to show Sasuke the peak of what it meant to be an Uchiha. A explosion rocked the area, Itachi's hastily built wall blown to bits by a wide-eyed Sasuke, black fire trailing away from his eyes. Mangekyo spinning, Sasuke had no issues seeing the ethereal chakra floating around Itachi. To what end, Itachi? The clan is functionally dead. The village never cared about you or our future, only what they could take from us. Matching Itachi, Sasuke began to build up his own chakra. If you wanted to protect me, to help me, why didn't you stay? Sasuke frowned at the chakra-formed bones that began to form around his brother, idly noticing the sky darkening above them. Why didn't you actually try to be my actual brother? The very fires of Amaterasu began to build up around him to copy Itachi, staying in step with the elder Uchiha. A twitch and Itachi paused. He could see it clearly in this moment. There was pure rage on Sasuke's face, hatred and more. Sasuke had known just who and what Itachi was. While some part of his little brother still wanted to save him, to help him, so too he was just as willing to kill him. This was the culmination of centuries of work, from their founders to now. The perfect Uchiha. No, little brother, I don't think I've done anything wrong at all. The bones of the Susanoo grew around him, the otherworldly skeleton building and growing flesh more rapidly with every second, the final ability of the Uchiha clan and the greatest. You hate me, rightfully so. But I did all of this, so that you would reach this apex. This height. Now no one can stop you. Itachi watched as Sasuke easily copied him, a deep blue Susanoo construct much the same as his own if not for the color, both Uchiha brothers rising while sheltered deep within the chests of their techniques. Now, you have one last duty to fulfill. Watching them both from on high, Naruto floated with Sakura on a platform made of earth, having retreated once larger and more deadly techniques started to fly. Rinnegan active and watching, Naruto remains silent while Sakura watches on anxiously. What is this? Sighing, Naruto shakes his head as Sakura leans over the edge of their rocky surface. Sasuke explained it to me once. Susanoo. Born from the abilities of Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi to build the illusion, and Amaterasu to make it real. A technique not seen since Madara himself. Sakura's head snapped to Naruto near instantly. Madara. As in the founding of the modern-day Uchiha clan himself, Madara. The man who fought toe-to-toe with Hashirama the first Hokage. That Madara. Watching Naruto nod slowly, Sakura turned back to watch the brothers face off, ignoring as it began to rain around them. Unreal. Naruto again nods, literally. Reach high enough with this, and even a single person can fight toe-to-toe with Kurama himself. And I don't mean like me with clever explosions and seals, I mean hand-to-hand and raw power. I would still kick his ass. Of course you would, great and powerful Kurama-sama. Was that sarcasm? That feels like sarcasm. Wouldn't dream of it. Stepping forward and sitting down next to Sakura while ignoring the stewing Kurama, Naruto gently placed a hand on her trembling shoulder. Except for one thing. Sakura frowns. What's wrong? Sasuke didn't unlock his Mangekyo the same way Itachi or anyone else before him did. He had something else spur it on. Sakura turned back to find Naruto smiling at her gently. What crazy shit did you two get up to without me knowing? Chuckling, Naruto shakes his head, patting her on the shoulder lightly. Wasn't me this time. It was you. Naruto winked at her and grinned as a confused look started to work its way on her face. He told me. Well, no real details really. But late one night alone with you, he had one single thought while you slept. Together, they both watched Sasuke settle within the chest of a great armored warrior that stood nearly 100 meters tall, armed with an odaki in a right arm and a shielded bow on its left. Horned helm on and bright yellow eyes watching Itachi's own similarly armed but unarmored yellow Susanoo. There was a silent standoff before them and Naruto sighed as he continued. What was he willing to do, to protect the one person he loved more than anyone else? In a moment, Sasuke knew without a doubt that he was willing to burn the entire world to ash, if it meant seeing you live on. Naruto again winked at her with a more genuine smile even as her face was aflame in a blush. And in that moment his eyes shifted, power born not from hatred, but from a love so intense and deep that not even the kami could refute it. Naruto knew the feeling. He and Sasuke shared the same thought. That they would rend this world if it meant the salvation of those they loved. Sakura finally shook her head and sat back, taking in the man she loved as he faced off against his older brother. All that. This. Because of me. I mean, the power, yeah. Pretty sure they aren't fighting over you. Accepting the slap to his arm, Naruto grinned and continued, just think, you can say confidently that your man was willing to fight gods for you. Naruto chuckled as the brawler giggled but nodded along. Or, you can say you've got world-ending pus. Naruto easily let the incoming fist smash into his face and launch him into the air. Internally chuckling at the blushing Sakura already turning back to the fight. Asshole. She ignored that he was almost instantly back at her side, still grinning like a loon. Instead she focused on Sasuke and her own hopes for the future. Still internally she wished that this fight wasn't necessary at all. That there was some way for the brothers to reconcile. Sasuke stared his brother down, his own Susanoo slightly taller though they both knew Sasuke's own was much more advanced. We don't have to do this. We can stop. We can finally talk. Look at us. We're all that's left. Isn't that worth something? Sasuke took a step forward, and the Susanoo responded, you said so yourself didn't you? I've reached this peak now, so why does one of us have to die? Another step and the earth trembled. Do I really have to kill my older brother? The last of my blood. Itachi gave him a mad grin, nodding along, you know how this ends. Either you kill me, or I kill you. There is no in between. Bringing his left arm up to display the Yata mirror, Itachi drew his sword of Totsuka from its sake jar. My sins cannot be forgiven. You must end the Uchiha. Itachi knew he had more blood on his hands than could ever be cleansed. Forgiveness for someone like him. Never. Sighing, Sasuke nodded and took another step. No. Seeing the puzzled look on Itachi's face, Sasuke shook his head. If you truly want for me to kill you, I can accept that. But the Uchiha won't end. I'll do my duty. Rebuild it into something better. Something that can stand in the light. This hatred, this disease that we hold within ourselves. I'll make sure that that ends with you. Brandishing his bow, Sasuke nodded to his brother, let's finish this, big brother. Itachi nodded, let's. Already his arm and thus his Susanoo was moving forward, liquid form of the Totsuka surging in for the kill only to crash against Sasuke's raised defense, the bow on his left arm taking the damage for him. They sprung apart, Sasuke launching a bolt from his crossbow towards Itachi only for his form to vanish. Mildly surprised, Sasuke was already turning to lock blades with his brother with a sneer. Around him the earth trembled and broke. Boulders and dirt surged into the air from their footsteps, and landscape changing by their every movement. A Kawarimi, really? Just testing you. They broke apart again, as rain began to fall around them and Sasuke raised his sword to the heavens. Chakra heavy was an understatement for this technique, never mind what he was about to do. This needed to end, now. Fine then, test this. Lightning forming around his Susanoo's sword, the heavens above answered with light and thunder. It was here that Itachi paid attention to the world around them, noticing that the once blue sky had darkened with a storm. He realized that all of the fire techniques so far had been a catalyst to changing the very weather, Sasuke planning it all for this very moment. Clever. As Sasuke slashed his sword forward, he watched as a dragon of real lightning answered his will. Raiton, Koryu no Shuen. Naruto and Sakura watched as a fully natural lightning bolt crashed down into Itachi faster than they could blink. Easily piercing his Susanoo and striking him fully. Rubbing the spots from her eyes, Sakura could barely make out Itachi's body as it fell to the earth while his chakra construct broke apart. What the hell was that? Naruto sighed as he began to bring him down towards Itachi's fallen body, keeping some distance, but closer now in order to hear what was going on. You know how techniques that use natural elements are stronger than those that make the elements from chakra. Naruto watched as Sakura nodded and he continued, turning back to watch Sasuke dispel his own armored form to walk towards his brother. Sasuke had a feeling Itachi had a complete Susanoo at his disposal. So he needed something that could break it. Enter some brainstorming and here we are. Using fire techniques to alter the weather, a little lightning chakra to get the reaction going, and boom. Naruto pointed down as Sasuke stood over a panting and unseeing Itachi. You get one roasted Uchiha. Sighing, Sakura kicked her feet and worried about how this was going to end. He wanted to save him, you know. Sasuke didn't want this to end in a fight. To end in one of them dying. Getting no more than a hum from Naruto, she continued as they descended even further. Part of him wanted his brother back. He wanted to make sure the Uchiha had a better chance of not fading away. But now, matching Sakura's previous sigh with one of his own, Naruto set him down a dozen paces away from Sasuke and Itachi. Letting the platform of earth crumble away below them, Sakura and Naruto took their time walking up to the brothers. We can hope and dream all we want, but reality is often harsh and cruel. Sakura turned back to her brother-in-law, only just seeing something dark stir in those eyes of his, but it was gone in a blink as if she had imagined it. Rinnegan fading back to natural blue and Sage Chakra leaving him as well. What about you? What do you think? I think Sasuke did his best. And that's all we can comment on. Sasuke did his best to ignore the fatigue that had built up in his body as he stood over his older brother. To think, less than 3 years ago this was a man he had feared more than anyone else. More than anything. A boogeyman that haunted his dreams and even some waking hours. And now here, proof that like anyone else Itachi was still just a man. Sprawled out in a shallow crater, chest heaving erratically, Sasuke finally sighed tiredly, this is over. Itachi nodded along slowly, body cold and chakra all but gone. One last task. I know. Sasuke didn't flinch as Sakura came up to his right side while Naruto came to his left. For what it's worth, I really did want us to make peace with one another. Itachi again nods, paradoxical warmth suffusing him slowly as feeling left him. In another life, maybe. I could have returned, taken Conan as a bride maybe, been a good uncle to your brats. Yeah, I could have annoyed the shit out of you by constantly pestering you in silly contests. Maybe you could have been a Azu Jonin instead of returning to Konoha. Hey, Azu Ninha. Itachi's unseeing eyes began to droop, blood leaking from his lips as the crater of his chest heaved. I think I would have liked that. Or maybe I would have stolen your woman away. I'm the better looking of us, I think. He could not see his brother, but he could imagine the smirk that just crossed his face all the same. Snorting, Sasuke shook his head. In your dreams, big brother. He gently wrapped an arm around Sakura's waist, pulling her into him. I'll do our clan proud. I'll rebuild us into the clan we were meant to be. The family we should have been. Sakura nodded along. I'll do my part as well. I won't let him fall to darkness. A smile on his lips, Itachi allowed what chakra and life he had left to fade. I believe in you, little sister. Chest no longer moving, the three ninja remaining stood quietly over the fallen Uchiha as rain began to come down in a torrent. None of them moved, Sasuke allowing the rain to mask his tears, while Sakura's shoulders shook and her body was racked with sobs. Naruto wanted to turn away, his own mind going to a dark place as he considered Itachi's words. What was it, truly, that prevented Itachi from giving up this quest for atonement? Could he not see a world where he would have been better spent living to atone for his sins? Where he could have found forgiveness, acceptance, maybe even love. In the end, Naruto had to admit that not everyone could move on from the past. Itachi was one haunted by his sins, and in the end it was better for him to die than it was to live with what he had done. Will that be me, one day? You didn't slaughter your clan or droves of innocent people. No, just countless sound ninja, bandits, and gangs. Sprinkled in with a few despots and wannabe tyrants. Naruto tried to form his thoughts into something more coherent, trying to get this feeling in his chest understood. Will madness like this take hold of me one day? Will I force someone I love to kill me? Kurama sighed, knowing that something was deeply troubling his partner, but not having the time to truly talk to him. If only he could talk to Naruto's girls so they would weasel it out of him. You did all of such for the right reasons. You don't kill for sport, but to protect. You always give others a chance to redeem themselves. You are not a monster. Hey, I guess you're right, Kurama. Naruto watched as Sasuke turned dull eyes back to him. You need me, bro. Sasuke sighed, motioning with his head towards Itachi. I'm going to need his eyes. Think you can watch over us while Sakura does this? Naruto nodded resolutely. Nothing and no one will touch you, don't worry. Turning away to scan the horizon, he hoped what he was about to ask didn't set his brother off. Should we bring him home? Give him a proper burial? Pausing while he was in the middle of laying down, Sasuke stared down into the charred chest of Itachi. Slowly, after giving it some real thought, he nodded and continued to lay down. Yes. He deserves to rest. Just like the rest of the clan. Thunder shook the heavens above them as he continued rolling over and staring up into the dark sky. His vision was interrupted by a gently smiling Sakura. Thank you for being here for this. I love you, Sakura. Blushing and grateful that Naruto didn't get to teasing him, Sakura leaned down and kissed her love once. And I love you. I'll make this quick. She was getting rather good with these eye procedures by this point. Naruto stared out over the ruined and desolate landscape, mind already moving to his two largest concerns. Kumo and Iwa. Just what would he have to do with them soon? Worse, what would they force him to do? Yugito wondered at her life and how it had led to here. Loose and flowing blue tunic over fitting blue pants and sandals would place her as much a Rizushio native as any other, if not maybe for her bright blonde hair and dark piercing eyes. And yet, she was left alone. No one bothered her here. There was no ridicule, no missions to complete, no assassinations to carry out. Here, as she slurped away at some rather wonderful noodles, she could just be. And brightly smiling brown-haired Ayami across the bar was already setting a new cup of tea down in front of her, and she gave a slight nod of thanks. You've taken to business for yourself quite well. Yugito's voice was strong and clear, even if her lower back still twinged from time to time. A wonderful soreness that. Happy kitty, at least the Matatabi was satiated for now. Ayami nodded and served another patron at her bar, her shop nearly identical to her father's if not just a little larger. Ramen was fairly popular here. Yeah, I honestly have to thank Naruto and my dad for convincing me to do this. Working efficiently to both work a new set of noodles and test another batch of spicy broth, she hummed with some pleasure. It was a challenge at first, but now I have a whole groove going. Eyeing the former Kumo ninja, Ayami took a moment to relax and wink at her. So, settling in all right, making some friends. Tsunami had let slip the arrangement between Naruto and Yugito, and it had sent Ayami into hysterics ever since. She'd need to tease her little brother the next time she saw him. Blushing and occupying herself with her tea, Yugito tried and failed to hide her embarrassment. So, you know. Yup. Giggling even while moving to supply another order, she gave a bright smile to a cleaned-up member of the Chinook clan as she handed him a new bowl of the Naruto special. Don't worry, I won't tease you too much over it. She completely missed the man's embarrassment, or the not-so-gentle ribbing from his clanmate next to him. Groaning and putting down her cup, Yugito turned tired eyes to the other woman. I'm never going to hear the end of it, am I? Or live a little. It's all in good fun. Laughing as Yugito slumped in her seat more, there was a bell chime as Ayami's door opened to admit what looked like a couple down on their luck. Hiya there. Grab a seat and I'll be right with you. Obito decided that of all the ideas Kuretsuki had had so far, this one wasn't the worst. Traveling from eateries to bars and shops, they had been gathering what information they could while disguising it as a vacation. Much better than her initial plan of blowing things up until the Azuki arrived. Thank you. His normal voice was still rather rough, but at least he was able to hide his face behind a more normal face mask. Sure, he looked like some beach bum in light grey shorts and a grey hoodie, but he'd rather not show off the ruin of his face. Kuretsuki was having too much fun to care. Somewhat matching Toby in a grey and yellow version of her usual attire, though without her weapons and armor, she was having the time of her life, forcing the man to pay for everything. Hey, a shopkeep, what do ya recommend? Ayami chuckled as she set about making another order. How about the Naruto special? Lots of protein, some good veggies, and enough spice to free up your sinuses for a week. Sold. One each for me and my man. Kuretsuki couldn't help but cackle as she just knew Toby was glaring at her from behind his mask. Serves him right for doubting her. She was in mission mode now, and she did not fail. Shaking her head and offering Yugito a smile, Ayami set to work. I know you don't fully know yet what you want to do. But my advice, try a little of everything. Go on a bender. Find a hobby. Get hyperfixated and see where it goes. Find love, or don't. String along a bunch of lovers. Learn what your heart likes and what it doesn't. Smile softening into something very genuine. Ayami watched Yugito return it. You'll get the hang of it, we all do eventually. Finishing up the 2 new orders, Ayami was around the counter with a tray to carry the bowls and a pitcher of water. Yugito herself stared down into her own half-finished bowl of noodles. Ayami made it sound so easy. You could always visit the stud. Yugito admitted that yes, she could while her back again throbbed. You're hopeless. I'm in love. You're in heat. There's a difference. Oh, there is, one you'll figure out eventually. Ignoring the long-haired blonde that was muttering to herself, Kuretsuki beamed at the cheery woman who brought their food. So, we've been hearing all kinds of crazy stuff about the Azukage. Like he's 7 feet tall and shoots chakra from his eyes. Laying it on thick, the Iwa ninja idly noted Toby's bowl was somehow already a quarter empty. When did he do that? Shaking her head as the rumors were getting more ridiculous by the day, Ayami started back to her bar. No, the height is all wrong. Not sure about the chakra from his eyes though, never know with him. Having been in a zoo long enough by now, she knew better than to give out information to outsiders. And these two practically screamed outsider. Ooh, I did hear that he's actually a reincarnated prince. One of her patrons started laughing long and loud, his table joining him. Oh come on Miss Ayami, there's no way that's true. Chuckled and shrugging it off, the restaurant owner was all smiles as she returned to her work. You have no way of proving me wrong though. Enjoying the laughter that rose up above the usual din of separate conversations, she set about her work. The lunch rush would be starting soon after all. Kuretsuki leaned over to Toby, getting as close as she could. Think she knows more than she's letting on. Toby shrugged. Toby thinks so, but Toby thinks everyone knows more than they're saying. They were outsiders, and obvious ones at that. The trick was gleaming real information from the fake rumors. Nodding and sitting back down to enjoy her food, Kuretsuki is back to grinning. We have time. Why don't we hit the tower next? I hear there's a memorial there is recommended to visit at least once. Sure thing, I'll go where you want, so long as I lead. He learned his lesson. Never again. Meanie. Ignoring the bickering couple, Yugito finished off her bowl and motioned for another. Maybe you're right Ayami. I'll do what you said, and follow my heart. See where it leads me. That's great. So what's the plan then? Well, blushing and looking away, Yugito eventually turned back with a more confident smirk on her face. I wouldn't mind a second round. She couldn't go out and fight anyone after all. Might as well settle for the next best thing. Be careful, you may just fall for him. Doubtful. Yugito tried not to take Ayami's knowing look too seriously. What could she know? B. Tayuya was not in the best of moods at the moment. Yes, she knew that Naruto had been pulled away by an emergency, but having to watch over the desk again was not on her list of things to do today. She had planned on lazing around the Uzumaki compound and getting to know the others. But, at least she had Tsunami to keep her company. So Anko and Iruka have finally made the move, have they? Tsunami smiled as she relaxed back in her chair, ignoring the pair of Narutos off to the side continuing to do paperwork. Yes, apparently Anko led the charge. I'm unsure if they will take up ninja assignments here however. Tayuya waved the thought away without hesitation. Knowing Naruto, he'll have them signed up and ready to go within a few days. She knew good and well that was his plan when he finally got his sensei and his woman here finally. Poor sods, didn't know what they were getting into. Anything new for you? Like a boyfriend maybe? Or a girlfriend? I don't judge. Putting a hand to her cheek, Tsunami blushed a bit. No number. I don't have the time for something like that. Caring for Inari and all of the people of Wave is more than enough for me. Tayuya wiggled her eyebrows. Sure. But I'm sure some nights get a bit lonely, don't they? Even leaders need to take breaks. Something they continually had to remind Naruto of. Smile turning into a smirk, Tsunami turned knowing eyes to Tayuya. You know, you aren't wrong. Say, can I borrow Naruto for a few days? Caught off guard and not missing the snort one of his clones made, she gave the older woman the stink eye. There's no way you're serious. I wonder. I'm pretty sure Naruto is into older women. Nope. Go find your own boy toy. Half this city would trip over themselves to have you. Tayuya wasn't worried about Naruto bringing Tsunami into the fold. They all respected the woman heavily. Her and her father. Even still. They all knew there was something between Naruto and Tsunami. They'd rather not tempt fate there. I suppose. Teasing the younger girl was so much fun, especially after whatever it was that Itachi tried to do to her. She needed to have some fun. Do you suppose they'll be alright? So long as Naruto is there, nothing will happen to them. Itachi is probably in about a dozen pieces by now. Tayuya had no doubt that Naruto and Sasuke together would make short work of the nuke nin. Talented he was, yes, but against the two of them together, nothing short of another cage had a chance by her estimation. Maybe a few of them. Tayuya, Karen is here to see you. Amaru's voice piped up from the intercom, and Tayuya pressed the return button. Sure thing, let her in, I ain't busy. Tayuya looked up and prepared herself for another long speech about funding and future projects. The girl sure didn't know when to relax. Watching Karen walk into the room, Tayuya's mood soured as Karen's shadow followed along in black robes. Oh, right, I forgot you were with her. Karen sighed as the door closed behind her, Kabuto staying to her left and out of the way. We promised to give him a chance, Tar-chan. Grunting, Tayuya nodded, though she refused to make eye contact with the snake. Yeah. I remember. Doesn't mean I like him. Closing her eyes and taking a deep breath, Tayuya shook herself and smiled at her sister. So what's up, Karen? It's rare to see you up and out of the basement. Settling herself into a seat while Kabuto remained standing, Karen shrugged. Without Honoka here, the lab gets kinda boring. Plus everyone has harped on me enough, so I'm making sure to take breaks often. Kabuto shrugged. She heard the alert and started to fret, so she decided if information was going to come in anywhere first, it would be here. Reaching back and smacking the man, Karen frowned. That was a secret. Grinning and wondering that maybe Kabuto wasn't all bad, Tayuya turned sly eyes towards Karen, so little Karen was worried. Maybe you are next in line to get knocked up. Karen paused, looking down at her currently very flat belly. Even still, the thoughts and fantasy took hold, and hands rubbed her stomach softly. I don't think I would mind if I was. Blinking owlishly, Tayuya exchanged a glance with Tsunami. Wait. You serious? I thought you wanted to wait. I did. Do. Well. Karen looked up and sighed at the look of concern on Tayuya's face. I don't know. I just. Knowing that most likely the entire clan is together and whole again, that we have a home to come back to, I've just been thinking is all. It wasn't like she was in a rush, of course. More like, if it happens, I don't think I'd mind all that much. Tsunami hummed while nodding. I understand the feeling. Sometimes things just feel right. She hadn't had the itch in a long while, for another child, that is. What would it be like, to hold another small life in her arms? Tayuya couldn't refute that. I get it. Receiving a smile from Karen, Tayuya idly rubbed her own stomach. I really do. Giggling, Karen leaned back in her chair. To think you used to be such a tomboy. I almost wondered if you'd ever let a guy willingly touch you. Hush before I remind you why I'm still so scary. No thanks, Mama Tar-chan. I know better already. They all shared a laugh before Karen sighed and motioned back to the silent Kabuto. I know you probably don't want to hear it from me, but the guy is trying. Tayuya sighed and eyed the glasses-wearing man who was doing his best to seem uninterested in their conversation. I know. Doesn't mean my mind will change anytime soon. She as well as the others knew though that Naruto was willing to give him a chance. And if Naruto could do it, they could as well. But I'll try. Here she held Kabuto's gaze quietly. Don't make me regret it. Kabuto himself bowed his head. I will endeavor to make sure you don't. He didn't have to look to know that the two Naruto's clones had been watching him since he had entered the room, but at least now he knew the young Kage was a man of his word. There was nothing for him to fear here so long as he followed his rules. I did have a question, however. Raising an eyebrow, Tayuya motioned with a hand. Well, go on, what is it? Kabuto took a moment to really think about how he wanted to word this, before deciding it didn't matter. I know you still have the other Sound 4 members. Are you planning on using them for the future? Tayuya shook her head right away. Not unless we have good reason to. Not every bloodline needs to come back after all. She as well agreed with Naruto's and Karen's assessment of Sakin and Akon. Plus, we won't experiment on people, we aren't like Orochimaru. Kabuto smiles and nods. I did not assume you were. Only, sometimes having many options is better than having none. Just a thought is all. Karen shrugged. I haven't shown you, but I'm searching for a way to utilize Kimimura's unique bloodline for Azushio's greater benefit. I'll show you later. I think you could help me. Her medical tubes had seen some improvement after she had healed Isaribi and perfected her transformation. Oh. High praise from you, Karen. Flattery will get you nowhere, Kabuto. Karen idly watched a flock of birds fly by the window, distracted for a moment. Naruto better hurry back. Tayuya nodded. I agree. Let's give him an earful when he returns. Agreed. Karen could admit that without a doubt, Naruto alone was stronger than most. It was just that Itachi was a world-famous ninja, much like Sharingan Kakashi or the Densetsu no Sannin. It was hard to remember that Naruto probably had a dozen different ways he was going to eradicate the other ninja from this world. Which he better have done quickly and not let the older Uchiha get the drop on him. Killer Bee did not like this mission, nor did he like his specific orders. It didn't matter that they came directly from his brother, it was still shitty. Standing with his arms crossed and watching the main gate quietly, he ignored Team Samui getting ready just behind him. Samui, however, was much of the same mind, though she had less power to oppose her orders. So, what's the plan? She had heard the rumors that Naruto himself had come and threatened the Raikage directly. That the holding pens being torched had been his doing. Sniffing lightly, Killer Bee shrugged. It's just as my bro wants. We're two teams with two targets. You three are to capture any of the Uzumaki that the scout team can find and return to Kumo with them. Shaking himself, Bee hardened his gaze. All mirth gone, I track down the Azukage and beat the snot out of him. Either to drag him back or to kill him. Whichever I can accomplish. Sighing and staring out over the mountains of their home, Samui shook her head. We're crossing a line here. One that we can't so easily jump back over. Doesn't matter. We have our orders. Apparently a team from Iwa was doing much the same. The two villages united in this. Troubling. Their stew, cut off roughly by a burly finger over her lips, Samui shot Killer Bee a glare that would have wilted a lesser man. Only he shook his head at her quietly. I know how you feel. Really, I do. But it doesn't matter. We have our orders, so we carry 'em out. Starting to walk as he could tell the quiet pair behind them were ready to go, Bee truly did want to do anything else but this. We're proud Kumo ninja. We will not fail. Samui watched the larger man quietly for a time, making their way through the gate crowd so they could begin their trek down the mountain. This is going to push the nations into another war. Omoi was the first to grunt at her reasoning, knowing that she wasn't wrong. You would think that Lord Raikage would have taken that into account. Reminding herself that not everyone had her skepticism, Samui reached up to rub at her shoulder. You're right, of course. If the Raikage has decided on this course of action, then it must be with good reason. What reason that was she couldn't say, but it had to be there somewhere. Right. Bee knew better as the three younger ninja talked back and forth. Naruto had rattled as something fierce, and when faced with something unknown Bee knew that it wouldn't just sit idly and let it fester. No. The best time to put down Azushio was a few years ago when the rumors started. But the second best time was now. They couldn't let the fledgling nation build any more power for itself. Bro has things figured out, we should trust him as our cage. A mantra Killer Bee was having to remind himself of, daily. By the time we make it to the outer edges of Wave, our scouts should have infiltrated the city and put together some detailed maps and information for us. We'll meet up in the woods and formulate a plan with new information once we're there. Karui grunted, can't we just mass bomb the place and call it a day? We don't need that trash, do we? Even now she cared not for the Uzumaki nor the blood that ran through her veins. They were not her clan nor her people. Kumo was her home. Omoi spoke up next to her. Uzumaki blood offers too many benefits not to try and capture it for ourselves. And maybe, hopefully, this time we can get an Uzumaki a bit more fertile than the ones we had. Omoi had heard that the Uzumaki did something to themselves to make it hard for them to be forcefully bred. Most likely seal related. But that was fine, hopefully they could snatch someone and not give them a chance to reply such a seal this time. Bee nods quietly, that's the gist of it. All of this is for the betterment of Kumo. Even if you can only find one Uzumaki, that's more than enough. Suddenly he could feel the years of his life settle of his shoulders. It wasn't a question of whether this was the correct path or not. Bee's job wasn't to think about heavy things like that. The The rakeage did that. I thought you better than that. Gyuki's voice was quiet and thoughtful, enough to shake B loose from his own thoughts. I don't want to hear that from you right now. Oh ho, think you can brush me off now, do you? No, I'm sorry. I know this is not right. Family. A hard burden to ignore. Even still, a new war, all that suffering. Can't something be done to avoid that fate? This was no longer a time of kunai and tanto. Of short-range abilities and efficiency. Techniques and technology had increased what shinobi could accomplish, which meant even more could face destruction in the future. B takes time to think that over, secretly wishing for much the same. He didn't want to fight the kid before when they had found him in the land of hot water. And B had been against sending Yugito after him as well. Now this sounded like a suicide mission. I'd have to disobey, bro. This is bigger than your one village, you know that. I do. It was a thought that had been keeping B awake at night ever since Naruto had come to Kumo. Would he disobey the rakeage in order to protect what peace the world had? Doing so would probably force him to kill Team Samui, however, depending on how loyal they were to the village. Not a pleasant thought and not one he had the energy to think about. I'll think on it. See that you do. Samui sighed and did her best to ignore Omoi and Karui beginning to go off on a tangent. We have at least a week of land travel to get through. Might as well relax while we can. Maybe if there was time she could finally get some answers about Yugito. She still couldn't believe the other ninja was dead. Not without proof. But if she was, maybe then she could close her heart to the task she had been given. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.